Okay, everybody, welcome back to the next video in this series. In the last video, I replaced the mannequin with a soldier model and replaced all the animations with Mixamo animations. And just to see where we're at, you know, this is the soldier model. We've got new animations for equipping the weapon and unequipping it. Um, I still need to I need to tweak where the weapon is aiming because this having the having the reticle right behind the soldier's head's a little problematic. But I'm not going to worry about that for now because I wanted to go ahead and bring in an aircraft and see if I could hook that up. Um, in the last video, I also set up the JSB Sim component, and I brought in this AWACS aircraft from the Vigilante assets. I'm not going to use this, but there's a reason I brought that one in. I'll talk about it in a minute. What I am going to use, I think, is this C-130 aircraft. I've always been a fan of the C-130. I like that. I like it for some reason. So I'm gonna copy this and bring it into, actually, that's not the folder I wanted to copy. I'm gonna go back. I want everything in the content folder. So I'm just gonna grab this Vigilante content and I'm gonna throw it in my source content folder. So right here, paste this guy in. So first, talk about the Vigilante models. So there are two different kinds. Basically, they're what they call props and what they call drivable models. And so the the AWACS plane is one of their drivable models, and the C-130 is one of the props. So because it's a prop, it's just in this Vigilante content folder, and the AWACS plane, because it's drivable, is in this Vigilante movement folder. So the only difference between a drivable model and a prop is that the drivable models actually have in their blueprints, they have implemented a movement. They've implemented the ability to fly the aircraft essentially. On the props, it's just the mesh. There's nothing else there. But everything you need to make it drivable is there. So all the animations are there. Everything that you're going to need to make it a drivable model is there. It's just that the ones that are marked as drivable already have in their blueprints, they have, you can see there's this JSB Sim blueprint class. And if you look at it, it actually implements some controls for the aircraft. Whereas if we look at the blueprint for the C-130, it'll just be the mesh. So you can see there's actual code in this blueprint that's doing things, setting the landing gear position, and this inherits from another blueprint called BP Airplane JSB Sim that implements more of the controls. If we take a look at that, you can see this is the code that's actually flying the aircraft, setting the throttle here when you. So the reason this isn't, there's all these errors though, is because I don't have the controls actually set up for this. So you'd have to go, if you wanted to use this blueprint, you could, but you'd have to go in and set up all the input stuff to get it to compile. But I'm not going to use any of this. I'm going to create my own class that controls the aircraft. And I'm going to use this as potentially, at least, as reference for uh, what I need to do in my class to get everything to work. So that's why I pulled in this AWACS plane, so I could look at that blueprint for reference if I need to. But the C-130 is what I'm really interested in. If we take a look at this blueprint, it's not going to have as much stuff in it. Now it's got all the stuff to set the basically to run the animations, but it doesn't have any controls or anything like that. You can see it's just a mesh with the damage model and a Niagara system for some smoke when the damage model is displayed. So that's how those are set up. Now I should talk about the JSB Sim plugin a little bit because we're probably going to run into some issues. The JSB Sim plugin is not any kind of official plug-in from Epic or anything. What it is when Epic built their Antoinette project demo and tutorial, they built this plug-in to allow them to use the JSB Sim flight model as a part of that demo. And so, and then they open sourced it, so it's out on GitHub and you can contribute to it. But it was originally built for a very specific purpose to control it. I believe in the Antoinette project they use some sort of 737, 767, something like that, some sort of airliner with jet engines. I believe 2 jet engines, and as a result, they've implemented in the plugin. They implemented what they needed in order to get that to work, and that's important to understand because that means there's a ton of stuff that you're going to want to do potentially with it that isn't implemented. And if so, when you run into that situation, you have a couple of options. You can fork off their repository and make your own version of the plugin completely separate, or you can contribute a change to their plugin. You can submit a pull request, or if you don't want to do any of that and you just want to have a much simpler time, you can implement the movement component, one of the other movement components that are built into Unreal. And I believe there's a version of that in this AWACS. Yeah, so I think this one implements JSB Sim. If we take a look at this one, it implements projectile movement. So they've used the projectile movement component that's built into Unreal to build a sort of simple flight model. And you could do the same, and you can use this as a reference to do that. Relatively easy, I guess. The main advantage to not doing that is if you use JSB Sim, is that there are a ton of aircraft models already built for you. We can take a look actually. If we take a look at the GitHub repo of JSB Sim and we look in the aircraft folder, all of these are aircraft that come with with JSB Sim by default. So C-130 is here, and you can see there's an XML file, and I don't even know if this is the proper C-130. Actually, I guess it is C-130 Hercules. So this is the right model, and you can basically see these models are XML files that basically define the aircraft, and there's already a ton of them built as a part of JSB Sim, and there are a ton more available, open source, in all kinds of places online, because the JSB Sim flight model is also used in the Flight Gear flight simulator. So anytime you see a flight gear aircraft available, there's a good chance it's using the JSB Sim model, and it's going to have all these same XML files. Now, they get much more complicated than this. These are all relatively simple. F-16's got another folder in here for the hook and the pushback, but they get, believe me, way more complicated than this. But, you know, for now, I'm just going to stick to this one since it's here. It comes with the with JSB Sim by default. So I'm going to do C-130, and let's see what I got. So let me take a look at the animation blueprint. So we're not going to use this animation blueprint. We're going to build our own, but I've brought this in so that I can look at it, because I remember doing this before, that the animation was probably one of the more difficult parts. So I wanted to have this animation blueprint here to reference. Eventually I'll come clean out, like I don't need this level, I don't need this showcase blueprint. I'll come clean all this stuff out eventually. There's some animations here. These are all gonna probably, oh, this one's for the ramp, and then the rest are probably for the gear opening and closing. Yeah. You can see the front wheel. That one's for the front wheel, obviously. So we've got animations. We've got a skeletal mesh that we're going to use. We're going to build our own animation blueprint, and we're going to build our own classes that implement this stuff. We're going to use these blueprints for reference. So the first thing I need to do is I'm going to create a new Unreal class. And actually, you know what? I'm going to create some folders first. It'll create the folders for you when you create the class, but I prefer to do it ahead of time if I'm creating multiple nested folders. So we're going to have a vehicles folder. And I'm going to have an aircraft folder. And then in the aircraft folder, we're going to add a class here. We're going to call it Aspen Aircraft. And that is going to inherit from Pawn. I believe that's what I want. And just to go ahead and have them here, we're going to also have a ground folder, and inside of that we're going to have we're going to have wheeled. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to worry about that. So let me clean this up just let me get rid of all these BS comments. And we are going to have a player input component for this, because the player is going to be able to control it. And we're also going to have Aspen Aircraft NM instance, and this is going to inherit from NM instance, just like our one for our character. This is going to control the animation blueprint, so it's basically it'll be exactly like this. It'll do the exact same thing this class does, except it'll do it for an aircraft instead of for our character. Okay, so those are the two classes we're going to need in our aircraft anim instance, and I'm going to grab this just so I don't have to type it out. We're going to want, the very first thing we're going to want is skeletal mesh. Yeah, wait a second. Interesting. Okay. Something caught my eye there. So this will be aircraft category, and I'm gonna want a use skeletal mesh component. And I'm going to forward declare that class. Okay, so we got a skeletal mesh. We're going to want a spring arm component for the camera boom. And I'm going to call that chase camera boom. And then we're going to want the actual chase camera. There we go. So I think that's what I'm going to start with. We're going to add a ton of stuff to this, but I think those are the three things I'm going to start with just to set this up. So let me get rid of this, and I'm not going to worry about the anim instance for now. And in our constructor, in our CPP file, I need to initialize all three of these things. And the rider AR component, the rider AI component has figured out already. Ooh. There we go. So all three of those things are configured now, or initialized. Let me compile this. And I'm going to try to break this up into relatively small chunks. So I'm thinking probably get this set up and with a blueprint and get it added in and get it spawning in the world, and then that'll be the end of this video. And I'll try to break this up into really small chunks because it is quite it'll end up being a lot of work to implement this aircraft. So I'll get it into small chunks as I can. Actually, I did. Don't want to put in. I won't worry about the movement component just yet. We'll let that finish. Okay, that's done. Let's come up in here, and in my app folder, I'm going to create a new folder, vehicles, and a new folder in there, aircraft, and a new folder in there, west. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move this west. I'm going to make it a top level and put the aircraft folder inside of that, and then we're going to do another new folder, C-130. And in here, I'm going to create a blueprint, and I'm going to inherit from my Aspen aircraft class, and we're going to call this VP underscore Aspen underscore aircraft underscore C-130. And the reason I did all that is the prefixing there is because it's going to get confusing later if I've got 100 different vehicles in here, exactly what's what when I see it in the, in the object selector. So I maybe should have done even more prefixing than that, but for now, that's good enough. So let's open this up, and you can see the 3 components that we added from C++ are here, and we're going to set them. So the aircraft mesh, we're going to come set this skeletal mesh asset, and let's see if we can, there it is, C-130. And we're going to back it up a little bit. Now the camera boom, you can see the camera and the camera boom are in a terrible location. So I'm going to select the camera boom. I'm going to move this up above. And then I'm going to set the target arm length. Let's try 600. Not even close. How about 2,000? Still need more. How about 4,000? We'll try 3,500. We'll try it there. And I want the camera boom to sort of, I want to turn on the lag. There we go, camera lag. We'll keep all the settings for now. Save that, compile it, dock it in the main window there, and now I'm gonna the way I'm gonna do this for now, and I don't know how I want this to work in the actual game yet, but the way I'm gonna do this for now is my default pawn class is currently the character. So when I run, it instantiates a instance of the player character blueprint, and it puts it on one of these player start locations. I'm going to change this to be the C-130 blueprint that we just made. I'm going to run, and I'm going to ignore that because those are my the blueprints that I don't care about. So that actually, the camera looks a little far away to me, so I'm actually going to change that. I'm going to change it back to, I'm going to change it to 2800 and see what that looks like. That may be a little too close, but we'll go with it for now. So I can't do anything, and you can see my HUD is actually broken, and that's because if you remember, my HUD it assumes that you're controlling a character, and I'm no longer controlling a character. I'm controlling a C-130, so none of the HUD's gonna work. I'll deal with the HUD much later. We'll obviously want to replace it with something that makes sense. If you're controlling an aircraft, it should have a different HUD, obviously. So that's how we'll deal with that, but that'll come much later. For now, you know what? Let me come into. This was broken in the last video, and it's now working, and I don't know why. I didn't actually do anything to fix it. I'm going to, oh, it's in my game state. I'm going to change the time acceleration back to 1 so that it doesn't, so that the sun stays up on us. And that's in core game state. And it'll be under the Aspen. There it is, right there. Time multiplier. I'm just gonna set that back to 1. Okay, so now I got the aircraft where I want it. I can't control anything. I can't do anything. It's just sitting there. So what I'm gonna do is, first, I think I'm going to go ahead and add in the JSB Sim component. So in order to get the flight model in, the way that's implemented is with in that plugin is a special movement component. JSB Sim movement component. We're going to add a forward declaration, and we'll just call this aircraft movement. And we'll initialize it. I don't need to set up an attachment like I did for the others because that doesn't make sense in this context, so it's just initialized. Let me go ahead and compile this. Okay, so that's done compiling. So now if we take a look at our blueprint, we can see this aircraft movement component here, and the first thing we want to do is under this model section, under aircraft model, we want to specify which model to load, and this is going to correlate to a folder. So we want to load the C-130 model, and it's in this folder, so we're just going to put C-130 here. And then this draw debug, we want to make sure this is turned on for now. And this is a nice little thing that they've added in the JSB Sim plugin. When you turn this on, and let's go ahead and run and make sure that actually loads, and it does. Okay. make this a little bit bigger. So actually, when you turn that on, it should actually be displaying right now. It's probably not because of my HUD, but it will display debug information over here on the left side of the screen. Like I said, it's not working right now, probably because of something I'm doing with the HUD. I'm not going to worry about that for the moment. The important thing here is this structural frame origin. This is probably the most important thing. If we look at the viewport and we come down here, if we move this around, I'm not seeing it. Maybe I need to should be seeing some little points. They're not showing. Oh, whoops. C-130. There we go. So you can see once I got that right, it immediately loaded. Some of that may be why my debug information wasn't working either. Let's take a look. So Unreal actually just crashed on me there, and I know why. It's because, well, I know what I'm missing. I don't know why it crashed. I might have to take a look at that later. The reason why is because the JSB Sim movement component requires another component to be in the level, and that is a component called the georeferencing system. And because so basically that's a coordinate system. So the JSB Sim movement component needs to know where in the world it is, and in order for it to know that, it needs a georeferencing system to be in place in the world. So we're gonna wait for this editor to reload. There we go. So first of all, you're gonna have to, I think I showed this previously, but you're gonna have to have this georeferencing plugin enabled. And once you do, you can add a georeferencing system to the world. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. And now if I take a look at my aircraft, it probably didn't save because of the crash. So what I don't understand is, why it crashed rather than just not working. Because I'm pretty sure when I did this before, if you didn't have a georeferencing system, it would simply not run, and it would tell you you needed a georeferencing system. So that may be something that's now broken in the plugin. So that maybe I can, yep, there we go. So now you can see the debug information. So those 3 red lines there are showing where the landing gear are, I believe. And then we've got all kinds of debug information here that's going to help us later on when we actually start flying this aircraft around. For now, in this video, what I'm going to show you is the structural frame origin. So if we look in the viewport and we click on the movement component, you can see all these little points with different tags on them. Nose landing gear, left main landing gear, right main landing gear, this is center of gravity. There are several others here. I don't recall what they all mean, but we need to line those up. And what's really important here is that the landing gear, that these 3 points are as close as possible to the actual landing gear on the model. So basically what we're trying to do is the JSB Sim flight model is going to apply forces in certain areas, and we want those forces to apply to the right areas, so we need to align them with our 3D model. So we're gonna, so X is gonna move us forward and backward. And Y is left and right. I'm gonna leave that at 0 for the moment. Z is what we need to do here. We need to move these up quite a bit, I think. And then I need to move them forward. So you can see there's we're not going to get these, and this is actually off way more than when I did the F-16. These are actually off by quite a bit. So there's really only one thing we can do about this. So I have looks like I have the nose gear lined up pretty well, but the main landing gear are way off. If I want to fix those, the only way I can fix them is to either load in a 3D model that lines up better with these points, or really, if I want to use this model, and I definitely do, I'm not going to use some other model, I need to edit the actual model itself. And I'm not going to do this right now, but I am going to show you how you would go about it. If you look in this XML, the landing gears are usually called bogies in these things. Whoops. There we go. So you can see right here the locations. So this is my nose landing gear, which is lined up fine. So I can theoretically change these locations of my left and right main landing gear to get them to line up better with the model. And I'll probably do that at some point. For now, I'm just going to let it ride the way it is. And for now, I'm actually going to move the camera boom back down and set this back. I'm going to just remember that that was 2800. I'm going to set it back to 300 so that I can see right now actually it looked like those are probably on the ground. Let's see that again. Yes, so my landing gear are on the ground exactly as they should be. So that is, let me go and set this back. 800. And actually, I'm gonna move this just a shade to the right so the tail is not in the way. Okay, bingo, perfect. So we're set up, we're ready to start actually doing something with this model. I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm going to stop this one here since we're right about 40 minutes, and in the next video I'll start hooking up some inputs, and we'll have to, you know what, there is one more thing I'm going to do actually before I end this video. I'm going to come to my C-130 folder, and I'm going to create a new animation blueprint, and we're going to pick this C-130 skeleton, and we're going to change the parent class to Aspen Aircraft NM Instance, and call that ABP underscore Aspen underscore aircraft underscore C-130. And you know what? I'm actually going to change both of these. I am going to put one more level of prefixing in here. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to come into my skeletal mesh here in my C-130 blueprint. I'm going to set the anim class to be the blueprint I just created, which looks like I typoed. So I'm going to come back here and fix my typo. There we go. So now I'm set up to do the animation, and I'm set up to start using this flight model with some inputs. And so that's what I'm going to start on in the next video. So see you then.